Hey, I'm Kevin Flynn. I'm the writer and the actor for the one-man play Fear of Heights, which is opening this week at the Odyssey Theatre here in Los Angeles. It's the American debut of this play. It's back from Edinburgh. So watch this video, this interview to learn more about Fear of Heights. You know, I fell in love with theater for the first time in high school. I was sort of a jock, an athlete, and they were sort of somewhat diametrically opposed in my school. And I just felt drawn to it. And I felt like I was missing out on something. And I auditioned for a play. It was The Boyfriend, my senior year in high school. And I got cast as the lead. And I just really enjoyed it. It reminded me of, in a way, of team sports, how passionate everybody was about it, how everybody worked together. And so, you know, I got distracted a bit in college because I was a college soccer player. I had a scholarship at the University of Massachusetts. And whenever I tried to get involved with the theater department there, Richard Gere had graduated some years earlier. It had a bit of a reputation there. Vinnie Brand, I think, was the director of the theater program there, and he had a great reputation. I just couldn't get involved because of the time constraints of playing Division I soccer, basically, all that entailed. But I kept around it tangentially a little bit and went to a lot of theater. And then after college, I got drafted and played a couple of years in the professional soccer league. And when I was on the road as a comedian, as a soccer player, I started to write, and I started to try to, put little skits together and try and make my buddies laugh on the team. And after my third season of soccer, I went to Boston to basically try and learn how to become a stand-up comic. And it was really a great time to be in Boston. It was in the 80s, and boy, comedy was just red hot there. So it was a lot of fun. So that's how I initially kind of got into it. The real obsession for me with comedy was when I was in the middle of my third season, and I had written what I felt was some really funny stuff. And I just, more than anything, wanted to just try it out on the stages of Boston when I got there. And so I was in graduate school. I was the assistant soccer coach at Boston University, the men's soccer team. And I would sneak into this club called Stitch's Comedy Club, and I would watch from the back in awe as these legendary Boston comedians, Don Gavin and Steve Sweeney, Lenny Clark, they would go up and just rip the roof off the place. And I just became obsessed with it. I thought, I have to try this. Look at this live performance. This is amazing. The crowds are fantastic. The energy in the 80s in Boston was pretty over the top, which leads to whole other things. It was the sort of the cocaine and booze days. And thankfully, as an athlete, I sort of stayed away from most of that stuff, which helped me in my career, I believe. And I just hit it hard. I hit it really, really hard. I wrote every day. I got up on stage as much as I possibly could. And at the end of about probably 2 years, I entered a competition called the Boston Comedy Riot, which was a big deal in Boston back in the day. It was run by WBCN, the local radio station. And I wound up winning. And it was a whole group of guys and women that were coming up at this exact same time that were in the competition as well. I beat out Louis C.K. and Mark Maron and David Cross, Tom Cotter, and I got paired up with the women's winner, Janine Garofalo. And then the two of us basically went off on a multi-city New England Comedy Club tour. And from there, I started to get paid, and then I got into acting classes at that point in Boston. So I was working at night. In the day, I would do these acting classes, and I really enjoyed it. And after I got a couple of television spots as a stand-up comic, I moved out west, and I moved to LA. Why is the theater experience so important for both the audience and the actor? I say this to people, and I make the comparison with stand-up comedy. There's something about seeing stand-up comedy live. It's just a different breed of cat. You can watch it on television, but it's not the same. You have to be there. And with theater, I think it's the exact same thing. Just to experience live theater, working without a net, these people just, there's not 10 takes. There's one play that you're doing that's been written by someone, and it's just the excitement of getting out there and doing it. You got one take. You have basically one take. And for me, when I moved to LA, I did not have a lot of stage experience as an actor, and so I started to go out on auditions and things. And so I thought to myself, I have to really get in a play, because that seems to be where rubber hits the road for people. It's a really great training ground. Not that I even knew it at the time. So I auditioned for a play on Nantucket. My sister was living on Nantucket for the summer. She had a spare room, and I auditioned for the play. I got cast as Paul Bratter in Barefoot in the Park. And it was the first time that I'd really seen the intense passion, the work ethic that everyone did. You don't have enough rehearsal time. You don't have enough time to get your lines together. You got about a 2-week window to get everything together, and it's just exhilarating. It's just wonderful to work that way. And so that's when I really realized that this theater thing is really something special. To watch. Each show was different, and each reaction was different, and so it was just live and fun. The inspiration for Fear of Heights sort of came throughout my life at a certain point, and it was during COVID when I was sort of reflecting upon where I am and what I've done and the choices I've made, and I started to write. And I wasn't sure what I was writing at first. I think I was writing, my grandfather's that famous person sitting on the beam, the furthest to the right. He's on that famous ironworker picture. And my father was an ironworker. My grandfather was an ironworker. And my grandfather was a famous ironworker, basically. And I just started to see what was going on in the country a little bit with everything, with immigration and accepting, and what is America. And you look at that picture of those men on that beam. They were all immigrants, all 11 of them. And they helped build America. That's an iconic American photo. And yet that's our strength. Our strength is these people. They're Irish, they're Polish, they're Native Americans. And this is who we are as a people. And what I saw when I looked up there on that beam and thought about my grandfather, and he lost a finger and all the injuries that these men had, basically to try and put food on a table and put clothes on a back and a roof over the kids' heads. And then because of my grandfather and because of the sacrifices my father and mother made, I get to live a different life. I become this truly American kid who gets to play sports and gets to go to college and gets to try to be a stand-up comedian and try to be an actor, and then raise my own family. And the choices I have to make there between the choices I make between a career or a family, or what's best for a child. And when I started to think of the sacrifices which had been made for me, I reevaluated my life, and I made some different choices, which you'll see in the play, but some people would agree with, some people wouldn't agree with them. It's the choices we all make as humans, as individuals, and as parents. Some of the main themes that run through the play are not just, I sort of talk about how I was raised and how hard my father and mother worked for us. I have 3 sisters. And I talk about how that kitchen table every night when we would sit down and have dinner before all the cell phones and social media, we sat at the table every night when my father got home. That's when dinner started. And it was a fun, funny place to be. So I talk a little bit about growing up at a table where it was my first stage, really, where I had to make my 3 sisters laugh. And if I could get milk to come out of all 3 of their noses at one time, I know I've done my work for that evening. And how the lessons that I learned at that table took me and gave me the confidence to go out in the world and do certain things. I talk a little bit about my soccer career. I talk a little bit about, Boston when I first started. I talk about when I started to get to go on some of these auditions, how crazy they can be, commercial auditions, and then regular auditions. And then I started to become a television host. I started landing jobs as a TV host. And I talk about that a little bit and how, I'm offered a big job on my honeymoon and I have to make this decision. And it's one of many decisions I have to make. So I talk a bunch about the industry. I keep trying to figure out how I'm going to become rich and famous, because I knew I couldn't become an iron worker. So first it was soccer, then it was stand-up, then as an actor. I'm like, is it commercials? Is it sitcoms? Is it films? Well, it turned out a lot of it was television hosting. And so then a lot happens there as well. And then I have my daughter. My daughter's born, and it changes my perspective. So I think it's very personal. But what I have been told as I've workshopped this play, that it's there's a lot for people to pull in, from it that they can relate to, which is always a good sign to hear that when you're coming off stage. People are like, my dad was like that. My table was like that. Oh, I had an audition just like that. Oh, yeah, you spoke to the same things that what happened to me when I had my third child or whatever it was. So you start to write one of these things and you feel like it's almost narcissistic. Like who cares what you've gone through? But when you can sort of touch people on an emotional level, they identify with it as well. And so it becomes everyone's story. I think I want the audience to get whatever they feel out of it. I think I want them to pull whatever they identify with and understand maybe that I went through some of the things they went through, for good and for bad, and to really about what I came to. The conclusion was for me is about love and family and giving, all the things I had been taught growing up in life. The other things are fun, the travel, the movies, it's all part of it. But what it comes down to at the end is about, let's love each other. Let's be appreciative of what we have. And I basically spell out my priorities, and hopefully people can identify with some of them. For me, what I look for when I'm in the moment, time just goes away. It really does. I think for me, this is a very different breed of cat, because stand-up comedy is much more delivering your material, affecting people on one level, perhaps to make them laugh. And that I really get to read right away. I can tell if I'm doing well or if they're laughing. Let me change it up. Let me try this. I'll go over to this material. What I've noticed with this is there are laughs in this play, hopefully. There have been, as I've workshopped it, but there's more than that emotion in this play. And when I go there, when I time just sort of stands still for me. I really don't even see the crowd anymore. I just tell my story, and I kind of lose myself in it. And I think what is so powerful about theater is that when you affect people on a couple of different emotions, you really kind of get them more than I've experienced with stand-up comedy, which I do love, but it's at one level. Theater, God, it goes to another place and takes you to another world completely. I think a one-person play, if it's done correctly, can really move someone, because I think we identify with the individual that's up there, and we take things from them that we identify with. So I think if you're watching a play, written by Paul Simon, and then there's 7 or 8 cast members, and there's set designs and everything happening. I think I've tried to keep it minimalistic as far as the set design is concerned. So when you come out there, it's you, and people are watching you, and they watch you take this journey, and they suddenly empathize, criticize, get in your skin, and sort of be you for an hour and a half. And that's what's different. I think, with a play, that's really what's different. And with one man, when you're talking about your life, it's you're there to be judged. I always say, as an athlete, I always say I used to feel bad for wrestlers, because I was a basketball player in high school as well. And boy, I'd have a big team. We'd all run out and everything. But wrestlers, they just walk out there, they get on that mat, and it's just them. And I've always respected that. And that's there's a little bit of that in this in the one man scenario. I think everyone in the LA community should go. They must go. But they must go because they need to support theater. It's been difficult times for theater with COVID and everything else, and we need to come out with the strikes, the writer's strike, the actor's strike. We need to remind people how these stories are really important to be told. And one of the things that I was encouraged about, I said, you know what, when this COVID thing is over, there's going to be a need for a one man, because it's going to take theaters a little while to get up and running. It's going to take theaters a little while to, the cast and rehearse and set designs and all the things. And maybe they can just plug in a one man here to someone to tell a really good story that they get engaged in, and they discover their love of theater once again. And when we make the theater community healthy, then other great stories come out, ensemble pieces and musicals and all kinds of great stuff. So we cannot let this beautiful art form suffer any more than it has through this difficult COVID period. So yes, it's a must, and it should come to the show. Working with the Odyssey Theatre has been really a lot of fun. I started working with my director, Byron Owens, and I had asked him, where would be probably the best place to put this play, and one of the first names he mentioned was the Odyssey Theatre. It's 3 different theaters. They support the actors. Beth Hogan over there has really been wonderful in getting the word out. Because I'm an unknown, and this is a brand new one-man play that's coming out, and LA is really the first time anyone's going to see it in theatrical form like this. It's been workshopped a bit. I did it in Edinburgh, but I did a very truncated version of what people will see. With Edinburgh, you're on and off the stage in 53 minutes. It's like timing an egg. You got to get off. The next show's got to get on. So for me, the support staff's been wonderful. The facility is gorgeous. There's parking, which is huge in LA theater. And I've really enjoyed it. So opening night is Thursday, and looking forward to seeing the crowd in there and telling my story. When people ask me about my play, and they know I'm a stand-up comic, and I've been in some movies, obviously, as an actor, but I'm predominantly known as a stand-up comic. I always had struggled with, comedy, dramedy, heartfelt with some laughs, because it's the 2 different emotions. So come watch it, and hopefully you'll be moved in a lot of different directions. That's all I can say about my play. This play is something that I want to take on the road after this Los Angeles debut. I want to take it to New York, I want to take it to Boston, not just to cities, even to the Midwest, because as I mentioned earlier in this interview, I believe this is a story that all of us as Americans can identify with, where we're from, where we are, where we're going, the choices we make, and a little bit of the history of America, who we are. And I want to take it out there. I'd love to tour with it for a year. I feel really passionate about the story, and I want to tell it to as many people as I can, and then record it for who knows what. We'll see. Hopefully a streaming service. Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin Flynn. I am starring in a one-man play called Fear of Heights. I've wrote it over COVID. I've workshopped it. I did it in Edinburgh last year. Got great reviews. It is making its American debut in Los Angeles at the Odyssey Theatre. So it's a 3-week run. Please go to the website, the Odyssey website, and get your tickets. I am sure you will enjoy it. And we need to support live theater.